Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to talk about in the land of sports, so we definitely want to keep this conversation going after the show. So make sure you swing on over to odphpodcast.com. Join in the conversation on social media. Check out Parlay Point's new wrestling blog dropping this week, too. So you definitely want to make sure you're following and subscribing to that as well. Check out the TeePublic store. No better time to get some ODPH swag. No better time. New designs are up. It's a wonderful thing, so you definitely want to go check that out. And so much more is at odphpodcast.com. And always remember to use the hashtag ODPHpod on social media. But kicking off this edition of the Sports Podcast, we have to talk some wrestling.
Wrestling.
So there's been some news hovering around the WWE, and we figured we are going to get into that because that's going to take a little while to break down because obviously it's like a domino effect going on with a possible free agent landing.
Yep.
But they had a pay-per-view that kind of is setting up their Wrestlemania card that's coming up later this year.
Yeah. What is it? Like it's like less than 40 days away or something?
Yeah.
Something like that. I forget what it is.
The Super Bowl of pro wrestling.
Yes. But as took place this past Saturday from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, this was not another Crown Jewel event. This was the Elimination Chamber.
Yes.
So this is obviously the mega structure with the 5 pods? 4 pods? 4 pods.
4 pods.
4 pods in it where 2 people start in the ring. And the match cannot finish until everyone's out of the pods and in the ring, and then all antics and craziness ensue. A lot of people on the card, a lot of implications, as we mentioned, for WrestleMania. You had a couple matches with title shot implications at WrestleMania on the line, couple of belts on the line. So we're going to break that down now. And the first match that took place on the pre-show was between Rey Mysterio and The Miz. And you had Rey Mysterio emerge victorious, pinning The Miz in 9 minutes and 15 seconds.
Solid opening match.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing really moving the needle for me. Obviously, the biggest headline coming out of this was The Miz was promising a tag team partner to take on the Mysterios. And we would find that out on Monday, but we'll get into that a little later in the show.
Yeah, it was an all right match. I mean, just something to get the crowd going, kind of get everybody hyped up and going. It was all right for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Next up was a surprising open to the card, but hey, when you look at what was on the rest of the card, made sense. And this was Roman Reigns defending his belt against Goldberg for the Universal Championship match. And you had Roman submit Goldberg in 6 minutes exactly to retain his WWE Universal Championship.
I'm glad they didn't go for shock value and give the belt to Goldberg.
Uh-huh.
At this stage in the game, I don't have any interest to see him wrestle.
No.
I'm sorry and just being very honest about this. And this is another feather in the cap for Roman that you take care of another superstar on his long reign as champion. So this was all right. I mean, it was pretty much par for the course, but I was okay with it.
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, I didn't expect a long match out of this just because, listen, nobody needs to see it at this point. I could be wrong, but I think this might have been Goldberg's last match under his current contract he's had going.
Yes.
Could be wrong, so apologies if I am. But for what it was what it needed to be. Roman looked dominant. Another, feather in the cap, another name on the resume. Because if you look up the names of the folks he's beaten since he became Universal Champion again, yikes, that's quite a list. But it was what it needed to be. So, well, all right.
Yeah, I mean, it served the purpose of what it needed to, and that's to give Roman a quick program, because obviously going into WrestleMania, and I honestly forget how long it is till Mania, because I have not been watching WWE programming too much, because the product has not exactly been the best lately.
No.
I mean, in comparison to some other organizations like GCW, in my opinion, it's been okay, but it hasn't been like, wow, must-watch television.
It's got its moments, but it's not like... It's not a whole bunch of moments that, like, it's worth sifting through the crap to watch those moments.
Yeah.
Like, even a couple of years ago, it wasn't great, but there were still a fair number of moments that it's like, all right, I can sit through the crap and look at these awesome moments. It's more crap than awesome moments. So, and I'm in the same boat. I still keep an eye on what's going on. I still catch out the highlights on YouTube and look at Twitter when the shows are going on. But when it comes to watching it start to finish, nah.
No, you can't, because obviously it's not been great. But going into WrestleMania season, like I said, it was coming later this year as in April 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah.
2 days of the granddaddy of them all. This is usually when the WWE kind of steers in the right direction.
Yeah.
And that's why like pay-per-views like the Elimination Chamber matter.
Yeah.
Because we can get kind of an idea, temp in the room, if you will,
Yep.
of where we're going. So, Pat, let's get back to the card.
Yeah, so the next matchup was a first of its kind, or no, I don't think this was the first one. No, apologies. It was the Women's Elimination Chamber match. This was taking place between Doudrop, Liv Morgan, Nikki ASH, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, and the last entrant that was added on the Monday prior, Alexa Bliss. And you had Bianca Belair emerge victorious to win a title shot against the WWE Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania.
Made sense.
Yeah.
Zero issue with this, because obviously with what happened last year at SummerSlam, which is Bianca Belair was supposed to face Sasha Banks.
Yep.
Sasha could not wrestle due to reasons or injury. I honestly forget at this stage.
Yeah.
Becky Lynch came back, obviously, from maternity leave and beat Bianca in record time.
It's like 36 seconds or something.
Yeah, and I know like the fans were losing their mind, but it was a situation that the WWE made the best of the situation that they had.
Yeah.
I always felt they were going to run it back at some point.
Oh, yeah.
But to do the rematch at WrestleMania, you can't get on a bigger stage.
No.
So that being said, made perfect sense. And, to see Alexa was the surprise entrant, that was cool. Like,
Yeah.
I had no issue with that, because obviously they're kind of teetering away and then coming back a little bit to the whole Fiend possession gimmick, like whatever that's going on. But I didn't mind seeing her come back, and I thought that she looked great on the return.
Yeah, and I got to say, shout out to the women for finding creative ways with all of their gear.
Yes.
Because obviously with the way the laws and such are over there that, women can't wear very revealing clothing, which is kind of the staple for women's wrestling, on any federation, not just WWE. To go from a couple years ago where it was, I believe it was, what was it, Natty, and then, what's her name? Former Marine.
Oh, Lacey Evans?
Lacey Evans, thank you. Where it was Natty and Lacey Evans, and like they were wearing their normal ring gear, but like it was with a gigantic like double XL shirt over it.
Mm-hmm.
To this really creative, Liv Morgan with the honor and tribute, I guess you could say, to Britney Spears, wearing like the Britney Spears gear. Shout out to the women for being very creative.
Absolutely.
So next up, you had a matchup between Naomi and Ronda Rousey taking on Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville. And you had Naomi and Ronda Rousey emerge victorious in 9 minutes and 15 seconds.
This one really wasn't that big of a surprise. There was the whole Ronda had a fight with an arm tied behind her back,
which is not unusual for her.
Yeah, which is something I know if you've been following SmackDown as part of the storyline, because Sonya Deville was technically injured. And
yeah.
So this went right to the storyline that they wanted to build, and Ronda made Sonya tap, which that is what we kind of expected, because nothing's going to happen to Charlotte before Mania. So. Yeah. However that main event decides to shake up is going to be anybody's guess. But this one was pretty straightforward to the course.
I'm honestly surprised this didn't end in a disqualification of some sort, just because, as I mentioned or speculated on last week's show, both sides of this hate each other like in equal amounts.
Mm-hmm.
So I just figured they'd do the schmaz where it's like, oh, hey, they're going to fight for a decent amount of time, but then it's going to be a DQ finish.
I think that they were just trying to really add something to this pay-per-view, and then maybe we'll see a rematch get ran back on SmackDown this week.
Maybe.
That's where I was kind of thinking they were going, because I was expecting a clean finish, but we also have to go to April now.
Yeah.
With at least the one storyline.
True.
Like, I'm still hoping Naomi and Sonya Deville gets added to Mania, but we haven't heard anything.
So.
I hope so.
I would imagine
that
so.
storyline's been very good in my opinion.
There's definitely room for it now, just because, as we'll get to in a little bit, you've got what would be two matches with the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship, now one match. But
right.
Like I said, we'll get to that in a minute. So there's definitely room for it. Next up on the card was a matchup between Madcap Moss and Drew McIntyre in a Falls Count Anywhere match, and you had Drew McIntyre emerge victorious, pinning Madcap in 9 minutes and 7 seconds.
Like I said, pretty straightforward with this one as well, but Madcap...
Fucking Alabama Slam.
Yeah.
Hey!
Listen.
Earn your stripes, kid.
Say what you will about Madcap. That was a shot.
Uh-huh.
That was a bad shot.
Yeah, it was.
but he was still hung in there.
The ref asked him, and he apparently told the ref and told Drew he was still good to go.
Well, I think that he knows this is not ballet, as Rich from 3FN always puts it.
No.
And he's spot on with that, too.
Yeah.
There is going to be some very scary bumps that you're going to be taking. It's it's par for the course when you sign up to do this. And he gutted through it, and, listen, it was a little intense. And I think for him, this is why WWE is very high on him right now. I know, a lot of people are going well, him and Happy Corbin, I don't get the gimmick. You don't have to. You see what's going on in the ring and what they're doing, and everybody they're facing, they're putting over very well. Especially Corbin.
Yeah.
I think he gets a lot more anger from the internet of why is he here? Corbin is there putting people over like Dolph Ziggler does. And if you don't see that, you should be really paying attention, because that's why Corbin's on TV a lot now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing a great job with it too. Like I say, he's a heel that can definitely get a face over. And not saying that you need to get Drew over anymore, but I think with Drew, with the alleged neck injury or issues that he's having, to see him back in action, seems like he was looking okay.
Yeah,
this is a good sign, especially going to Mania. The match, was what it was, but it was a good one for him. So can't be too mad about that.
No. Next up was the matchup for the Raw Women's Championship between Becky Lynch defending her belt against Lita. And you had Becky Lynch emerge victorious, pinning Lita in 12 minutes and 14 seconds.
Lita looked great in this match.
Yes, she did.
For being out of the ring for as much time as she has been, it looked like she was picking right back up where she left off.
Yeah.
And her and Becky really had good chemistry. I was surprised. When I saw this match, I was like, they're really clicking. So definitely, though, once Bianca won the Elimination Chamber, you knew Becky was winning.
Yeah.
So there wasn't going to be any kind of really crazy finish.
I got to admit, though, I got confused, though, just because I wasn't able to watch the show live. I was busy on Saturday. I opened Twitter at one point, and I saw a tweet from WWE after the match was over, and it was just a photo of, Lita, on her knees in the ring, one hand, or standing one hand in the air, and it was just with the goat emoji, and I was like, and just the way the photo was framed and the way she was standing, and I'm like, wait a fucking minute, did she win?
Yeah.
And I had to go search. I'm like, oh, okay, she didn't.
Yeah, but now we get the rematch from SummerSlam that we've all been waiting for on the biggest stage. So.
Spoiler alert, will not be as short as the first one.
No, definitely not. I will even say this. That will main event night one.
Probably.
I'm going to call that shot right now.
Probably. Next up in the co-main event of the evening was the matchup for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships between Jimmy and Jey Uso taking on the Viking Raiders, which didn't happen. Viking Raiders were coming out first, and I don't even think they made it to the damn ring. And the Usos jumped them, shenanigans involved, and for whatever reason, because I've seen guys and girls take worse beatings in and out of the ring before a match starts, and they still have the match. And yet, for some reason, they decided, no, we're not going to have this match. It's a draw, no contest. Usos retain their title.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on here. I don't really understand it.
I don't either, just because, like I said, I've seen both men and women get the shit kicked out of them worse than what the Viking Raiders did, and still be forced to have the match. So unless there's, and I'm pure speculation here, I don't know anything, I'm not trying to insinuate anything. Unless there was some type of injury on the Viking Raiders to lead into this, because we obviously haven't seen them, since this took place, because this was on Saturday. SmackDown's not until this Friday. Maybe there was some type of injury that because they had to tape SmackDown, the week prior, and they flew out there. There was really no way for them to work it because there might not have been any other SmackDown tag teams out there with them. Maybe this was just their way of doing it, but certainly in a questionable event. Especially
to fly from the USA to Saudi Arabia just to do that.
I realize it's a good payday for the wrestlers, but to fly them however long it is, it's a fucking red eye.
Yeah.
All the way to Jeddah, and then to fly them all the way back just to have them not even wrestle, I'm sorry, even the amount of money for me, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it was puzzling.
Yeah.
To say the least. So hopefully we get a little clarification this week on SmackDown.
Yeah, we'll see. And then the main event was the men's Elimination Chamber match, and this was for the WWE Championship, where you had Bobby Lashley defending his belt against AJ Styles, Austin Theory, Riddle, Seth freaking Rollins, and Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Shout out to Austin Theory and all the selfies he was taking before he got in the pod. That was funny as shit. Also, rest in peace, Austin Theory. Brock Lesnar killed that man.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know what you did, whether you pissed in his Cheerios or you stole his beer or you hunted on his land without his permission or you insulted Saskatchewan. You did something to piss him off. Goddamn. But no, Brock Lesnar emerged victorious to become your new WWE champion, becoming a now 10-time WWE champion.
That's a crazy stat.
I know. And also taking place during the match, Bobby Lashley had to leave because what they were calling, and you can't see, but I'm using air quotes, concussion protocol. Current online speculation and the current rumor is that Bobby Lashley needs shoulder surgery. And keep that in mind because that'll come to play in a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting about the concussion protocol. But then when you started hearing the rumors about the injuries, and like, I hope speedy and healthy recovery if he's got to get surgery. 'Cause Lashley has been killing it right now in Raw.
That's why he needs shoulder surgery. He's been carrying the damn show.
Yes, well played, Pat. Well
Thank
played.
you.
Yeah, this match though, like I had a feeling that Lesnar was going to retain, or go get the win because I mean, it was interesting how it was set up, and they wanted to make him look like the unstoppable force.
And they certainly did. Him F5ing Austin Theory off the top of the pod. Ow.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah, like they wanted to make a statement win with him.
And I liked seeing I laughed seeing the article where I guess it was said that Brock Lesnar went off script of what he was supposed to do in the match. I'm like, well, of course he did. Are you going to tell him no?
Yeah, well, I think that he is now really seeing the business for what it is.
Sure.
And the money thing is there, but he's having fun. And if he has an idea, I think that now he's kind of getting to that point where it's like, I'm just going to do it. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Fire me? He
whipped a belt at Vince himself, and he's still employed.
Yeah, like that's the thing. He's as much of a made man there as you can get.
And if you don't believe that event actually happened, it's on the fucking WWE 24.
Yeah, there's no joke about that.
He did it.
So that being said, Lesnar has got a little freedom to do what he wants because, like, who the hell is going to tell him no?
Yeah.
And it made sense, and it put him over really big. Not that he needed to, but obviously now we're left with champion versus champion as it stands.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to make me care about Roman versus Brock, because let's face it, they've faced each other a fair number of times. It's not stale, but it's on that way to getting stale. You know, the food in the fridge ain't exactly expired yet, but it's starting to get a little funky taste to it.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to make me care, this is different. You know, they faced each other for the belt with both, you know, Roman having the belt, with Brock having the belt in multiple different scenarios and multiple different arenas. This is different. This makes me care about it a little bit.
It's very interesting to see that they want to go this route. But one thing that we're noticing over the past year is WWE, at least in my opinion, has a very precise vision of what they want to do with the company.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, they have laid off and released a lot of people over the past year.
Yes.
They're really trying to fine-tune what they're doing, and I think that they want to try getting back to one world champion, one tag team champion.
Right.
You can keep the 2 mid-card belts because they still do serve a purpose.
Sure.
But I think they're really trying to fine-tune their roster a little bit more. And doing this gives WrestleMania that big of a main event.
Oh, sure.
Champion versus champion. It's always a big deal when it's champion versus champion.
Oh, God, yeah.
So to put Brock there against Roman, that does add a great element. I agree with you, though, Pat. We've seen this a million times.
Yep.
I would love him to add Seth Rollins into the mix.
Sure.
Or, do something kind of crazy like that.
Maybe they'll have a Money in the Bank ladder match in between now and then.
Maybe, but obviously with that being a pay-per-view now.
No, I know.
That's the thing. You can't really do that to do that.
No, I know.
I know, but it would add a certain dynamic to it. Like there's no way around it. But then we had the first show after this pay-per-view, which I think that we both can kind of agree it was an okay pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was all right.
A premium event. I know I have to remember to say that now.
Yeah.
But it was nothing that really stood out and went, wow.
Yeah.
So that's something we have to take in perspective because now we're going into WrestleMania.
Yep.
Like you touched upon, it's like 40 days away. It just feels like forever for me. And we did get some interesting moments on Monday Night Raw that leads into Mania.
Yeah. Excuse me. So you had Brock Lesnar open the show on Monday Night Raw last night. I'm sorry, that wasn't Brock Lesnar. That was Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
Walker, Texas Ranger. Brock Lesnar came out, spun his stuff and said his stuff. Heyman came out and basically said, hey, listen, one of the guarantees you had of when I was your manager and I was in charge of your business and your affairs, as I made sure all the I's were dotted, and I'm paraphrasing, all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. And there's one little thing you neglected to note, is that you've got a championship matchup coming not this Saturday, on Saturday, March 5th at Madison Square Garden, which is a house show, so Brock will be at Madison Square Garden on March 5th, defending his belt against, now, Heyman said it's supposed to be Bobby Lashley, but Heyman said if Bobby Lashley isn't able to clear concussion protocol, don't worry, I'll have an opponent worthy of title contention for that matchup.
Yeah.
And he left it at that.
Well, obviously, the internet is running a little crazy with ideas.
Yes.
And obviously, if you've been listening to 607 TWS, you've been listening to ODPH, we have all discussed at some point about Cody Rhodes no longer being part of AEW.
Yes.
Now, in the latest edition of 607 TWS, we were talking about how what he's doing is basically being a good free agent and working for the best deal he can get out of either company.
Yeah.
But with how this promo came about from Paul Heyman, and to publicly mention about a house show, especially the date of it is very telling, which is March 5th. Now you're probably going, well, why is that important? The next day is AEW's pay-per-view Revolution on March 6th. So the WWE is really, in my opinion, trying to get some headlines away from AEW.
I mean, they ain't got to say nothing because they're already saying it.
Right. And what bigger way to steal some headlines than if you have one Cody Rhodes take on Brock Lesnar and possibly do a title change at Madison Square Garden.
I mean, you don't need to have Brock versus Roman belt for belt. I mean, I know the graphics are out there, but hey, card subject to change.
Exactly. And I think that that's maybe where we're going with this. Because if Heyman is saying he'll bring in a replacement, and like I say, this is only speculation, but if you're looking at the timeline, it does make a little bit of sense.
Sure.
Because if Cody is signed with WWE, and like we said, we don't have anything official. We're not saying he has. We're saying if. Because a lot can happen within a week that we know of. If he has signed with WWE, this is one of the biggest ways to make the internet break for a couple hours.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to see a very interesting reaction from wrestling fans.
And it's not even an event that you need to have televised to make an impact because, hey, let's face it, they'll have cameras there. They always do. I mean, I remember the one house show we were at here in Binghamton where, Alexa Bliss got interrupted by Buddy Murphy, and then Alexa Bliss went out back and told Braun Strowman what was going on, and Braun Strowman came out and did the whole thing. That got broadcast on all of their social medias from their cameramen camera people that were at the arena.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not even a case of like, it would make all the sense in the world to have him debut on Raw, debut on SmackDown, debut on, WrestleMania itself or whatever. But you don't necessarily need to. You can do it at the world's most famous arena.
You could do it there, and especially for anybody that has realized that AEW has really been trying to break into the New York market lately.
I was just going to say, haven't they been trying to get in the Garden the last couple of years?
I think they've tried for the Garden, but they've gone outside. Arthur Ashe Stadium is where they've gone. I know they've been to Long Island, too. So there is some interest of them going to New York, which I get. And listen, if you're a wrestling promotion, going to New York City, especially Madison Square Garden, that's the Mecca for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
You want to go there. But if AEW has been trying to, get their paws, so to speak, into Madison Square Garden, that's always been a home turf for WWE for centuries. It feels like. And
hasn't WWE, like the last couple of decades or whatever it is, had like final say if another wrestling promotion can get in there or not? Like it's a handshake agreement type of thing?
More or less. I mean, it's been kind of the perception is reality. Like you think about it. Like, I mean, there's only been one show that I think got in there without them, and that was New Japan.
Right, yeah, because it's fucking New Japan.
Yeah, which, listen, Vince has a great relationship with them. So
he likes New Japan.
Yeah, so like I said, between them and ROH there, I think that's the only time it's been.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think that you have to kind of really look at that they made a point to publicize about that house show.
Oh, yeah.
That was not a throwaway line. That was not a throwaway segment.
Heyman don't say shit without a reason behind it. You know, he shoots from the hip and he kind of speaks off the top of his head for a reason, but in this instance, that was not that case.
Yeah. So now it's going to be very interesting to see how this all unfolds. Like we said, we haven't heard anything officially with Cody of what he's doing.
No, I know he's alluded to retirement, you know, and whatnot, which could be the case. You know, but still, he's being very smart about it, and the buzz is as high as it could ever be for any free agent.
Yeah. Like, that's something you really have to think about, that he's really dictating his own pace.
Sure.
And really calling his own shot. So, that all said, it can really be something interesting to see how this all shapes up and to see where they go from it. Mm-hmm. So you really have to think about that for a second.
Well, and you know that the folks with WWE are having fun with this because, again, on Monday Night Raw last night, as a result of what happened on Saturday, you had The Miz saying he was going to get a partner to help him out facing the Mysterios. And the official WWE, not the WWE on Fox Twitter account, but the official WWE Twitter account, as a tease for last night's episode of Monday Night Raw, said, tweeted out, adrenaline is in the air. And I'm pretty sure, and I think adrenaline might have been in all caps.
Yeah.
They tweeted out, adrenaline is in the air, as, fans are expecting who The Miz is going to announce as his tag partner on Monday Night Raw. And, of course, adrenaline is the first lyric in the Kingdom song by Downstate, who sings Cody Rhodes' theme.
Mm-hmm.
So there's speculation of that. And then watching the segment, Miz knows what the fuck he's doing. He's a brilliant individual when it comes to promotion. He talked about this man, his partner, being a family man, having a long lineage, being dashing. And I was like, oh, he's fucking having fun with this. It turned out being Logan Paul, but still, they're having a lot of, whether this is true or not, that Cody Rhodes ends up there, WWE's having a lot of fun with it.
Well, I think it's good for business because now you've made WWE programming a must-watch to see if Cody shows up. And it's smart business. I mean, that's the whole thing. I know that we are not somebody that really talk about ratings too much, and it doesn't, at the end of the day. I mean, if you listen to Scuffle 7, TWS, and ODPH, like, this has been a long-standing statement.
They're fun to look at, and they're fine to look at, but ultimately, at the end of the day, unless you're an advertiser or somebody looking to buy ad space on said show, why the fuck do you care?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, the ratings thing doesn't matter. But it's now become something that's really making WWE programming noteworthy, that you might see a spike in this because people are interested to see how Cody does this.
Yeah.
To see him actually make an appearance, that would be a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
But if he goes back to AEW, it'd still be a big deal, too.
Sure.
Like I say,
no matter where he goes, it's going to be a big deal.
Exactly. Logan Paul, that's a celebrity. He draws in a certain demographic.
He draws in a large crowd.
Yeah, to check him out, too.
Love him or hate him, he gets a lot of views across all social media.
Yeah, and this is not the first time he's been in WWE, so you know what? Like, it's kind of a non-factor, but the Miz is having fun with this.
I fucking hate the guy, but I get it.
Yeah, like, you get it. Like, listen, he's ratings.
Yeah.
Love him or hate him, he's ratings. And the Miz knows what he's doing. Like, they're all working everybody.
We'll say, like, I know my mom hates First Take on ESPN just because of Stephen A. Smith and yelling and screaming all the time against whoever's on the screen.
Yeah.
That's a very deliberate choice on ESPN's part because you're not going to sit there and watch two folks and a host sit there and calmly debate sports topics on a morning television show while they discuss, where's Aaron Rodgers going to be going? What does it mean by his Instagram post? No, you're going to fucking tune in to watch it for the screaming and yelling they do at each other.
Yeah. It always makes for compelling television. And that's what you have going on right now with the Cody Watch. That's what we'll call it. By the way, yes, it was New Japan and Ring of Honor at MSG, had to do that back in 2018. So, but there was a little more kind of smoke thrown into this, fire as well, because Edge also came out with a promo.
Yeah.
And he has now called out somebody for WrestleMania.
Yeah, he called out, he kind of went in a roundabout way, went about it. He talked about his tag team matchup that he and Christian had with the Dudleys and Hardy Boys at WrestleMania 14. Or was it 17? I forget which one. Mm-hmm. And the Matt Gray, one of the greatest cards of all time, and the match that stole the show. He talked about putting Mick Foley through the flaming table a couple years later. He talked about his match with Undertaker that he had, and coming back, and he laid out an open challenge. And it's being speculated that He's challenging. He's challenging himself. Yes. No. He's challenging AJ, which would be fucking awesome. Give that to me. You know, people are speculating Demon Finn Balor, which again, seeing Finn last night when he tag teamed with Tommaso Ciampa, which, holy fuck, that's like a 16-pack between the two of them.
Yeah.
God damn. You know, Finn would be great, but then also people are speculating Cody. Mm-hmm. And also, he did mention the catchphrase that Damian Priest used to use, so people are speculating maybe Damian Priest.
Well, Edge is also smart enough in the business to know as well, too. So if you can draw some business there, it's going to definitely help him. I mean, obviously, he's very synonymous with WrestleMania. Not in the same level as The Undertaker, but he's up there as well.
Yeah.
So you know he's going to get a marquee matchup. I do think it's going to be AJ Styles by the time it's all said and done. But if it's Cody again, too, or somebody else, like, you know it's going to be a marquee matchup. Like,
why
Edge,
not both?
Well, you know what? It's not to say it wouldn't be out of the realm of thought, but I think they really, if they're going to bring in Cody, they're really going to go big with it. And obviously, everything is hovering around that house show. Mm-hmm. Which is going to make for some interesting television, because if the buzz is, hypothetically saying, Cody beats Brock.
Goddamn.
The internet is going to be buzzing about WWE programming going into an AEW pay-per-view.
And I know the online speculation is that Cody is going WWE and that Vince is going to give him a quote-unquote massive push. There is no bigger push than having him re-debut, because I don't want to call it a debut, he's been there before, but having him reappear on WWE with WWE at the most famous arena, their home turf. Let's face it, their office is in Stamford, Connecticut, but their home is in Madison Square Garden. Mm-hmm. You know, re-debut on home turf and beat Brock freaking Lesnar for the belt.
The possibilities here are just endless.
There is no bigger push than that.
Yeah. So we're going to have to wait to see what comes out of this, but just a simple throwaway segment on Monday Night Raw, stemming out of the heels of the Elimination Chamber, has really got some interesting possibilities should it happen. By the way, to clarify, it was 2019 for New Japan and Ring of Honor at Madison Square Garden. But either way, the Garden will be rocking on March 5th.
Yeah.
So ODPH Society, what do you think about the possibility of Brock Lesnar versus a mystery opponent? Sure, it's supposed to be Bobby Lashley, but if signs are saying he's supposed to have surgery, is it really going to be him? And then who do you think would step in the place that would really move the needle? Could we have WrestleMania early with, Roman Reigns?
Yeah.
Not another possibility, but that would be a heck of a way to shake up that main event. So much to talk about in the land of pro wrestling, so make sure you hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. Let us know your thoughts about the WWE Elimination Chamber. Did you watch it? Did you like it? Did you not? Also, what is your speculation involving Cody Rhodes? And do you think he's going to show up March 5th? And for even more pro wrestling coverage, make sure you're tuning in to 607 TWS on your favorite podcast platform as well. And check out Blogs Count Anywhere on odphpodcast.com. That being said, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
What's going on, everyone? This is your girl, Julene, host of It Goes Down in the PM. We talk about everything from work, motherhood, local celebrities to comic books. Tune in every Friday at 1 o'clock to find out what really goes down in the PM.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we got to talk some college basketball. Well, we are getting close to March Madness. I would say we are roughly under a month away.
One shining moment.
Yes, the greatest tournament in all of professional sports.
Yes.
Because that is literally anybody's game to win.
NBA careers can be made or broken with that tournament.
Oh, absolutely. But there was an incident that we have been asked by a couple people from the ODPH Society. We've been DM'd and saying, like, hey, what is your take about what happened here?
Yeah.
And obviously, with Final Four implications coming up, because the quote-unquote regular season is winding down very shortly, and colleges are going to be going into their play-in tournaments for their conferences, this is now where you're seeing the temperatures rise, the Emotions are an all-time high.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there was an incident on television that we have to break down and kind of discuss.
Yeah, so the incident in question took place on Sunday, I believe it was, between the Michigan Wolverines men's basketball team and the Wisconsin Badgers men's basketball team. And so, there was an incident that took place where I believe Wisconsin was on its way to winning. 10 seconds were left in the game. And Wisconsin decided to call a timeout, and it was a margin between the point differential where it was like, okay, realistically, Michigan wasn't going to make it up,
right,
and all that, So it was a foregone conclusion. It's essentially like if a team's up by 3 scores in the NFL and they decided to do the Dan Marino fake spike, like probably not the best idea.
Mm-hmm.
So reading from an article on ESPN.com, courtesy of Jeff Borzello. Wisconsin coach Greg Gard stopped Juwan Howard in the handshake line, leading to the two men exchanging words before being surrounded by a few players and coaches. Howard put his finger in Gard's face and grabbed Gard's sweater before Krabenhoft, he is one of the assistant coaches for Wisconsin, Joe Krabenhoft, came over in the middle of the scrum. Howard then reached out and struck Krabenhoft's face. Both teams began pushing and shoving, with Michigan forwards Moussa Diabate and Terrence Williams appearing to throw punches. Wisconsin guard Jacoby Neth also appeared to throw a punch. The Big Ten said it would review the matter for swift and appropriate disciplinary action. The swift and quick disciplinary action came down last night as we record, where you had Juwan Howard suspended 5 games the rest of the regular season, and was fined $40,000 for hitting Wisconsin assistant coach Joe Krabenhoff in the face after the game on Sunday. This was announced by the Big Ten Conference. Wisconsin coach Greg Gard was fined $10,000 for violating the conference's sportsmanship policy, but not suspended, while Krabenhoff is not expected to receive punishment. Michigan forward Terrence Williams and Moussa Diabate and Wisconsin guard Jacoby Neth were each suspended 1 game. All 3 appeared to throw punches. The disciplinary actions were imposed by the Big Ten in conjunction with both schools. Close quote from the ESPN.com article. So not the best look for either team.
No, unfortunately, this was caught on camera and shown to the national audience. I mean, that's the biggest point of this is where a lot of people got wind of what happened.
And you want to talk about it's never a good situation when fighting takes place in any sport, unless it's, boxing or MMA.
Or hockey.
But this was especially bad because this wasn't like it took place on ESPN 8, the Ocho.
Yeah.
This wasn't like it was, only on ESPN Plus, as part of their package deal or whatever. It's ain't like it was on the Big Ten network where you only get it if you have the right cable package. This was on, and this was on CBS, not CBS Sports, not Paramount Plus, CBS proper, the flagship channel.
Yeah.
And this was leading into golf coverage with Jim Nantz.
Yeah.
So there were obviously going to be a lot of folks tuning in for the golf coverage. And folks expecting, hey, it's coming up on 5 o'clock or whatever it is. Time for the golf coverage with Jim Nantz. Flip. Oh my God, these guys are throwing fists.
This is a situation where emotions are running high.
Yeah.
And you know what? You have to remember Howard, part of the Fab Five. Definitely, is an emotional player and is an emotional coach, like most are, because if you are really invested in a game, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, you do take that stuff very seriously, as you should. If you're out of reach and the game is over and that happened, I can understand being mad and being caught up in the moment. And you know what? That's why I say I feel this is an isolated incident. But, when you're going through the handshake line and somebody is going to be saying something about that, obviously tempers are running. And this is one situation that when you're confronting your opponents and something like this happens, it's going to get addressed.
Oh, yeah.
Should Howard have, hit him? No, absolutely not. But the punishment fit the crime.
Yeah.
I don't think that it should have been any longer. Like, I know we were kind of getting hit up about it should have been through the entire season going into the playoffs and whatever. And it's like, no, this is an incident where the emotions ran high.
Yeah, I mean, a cardinal rule or an unwritten rule of basketball was broken. You know, calling timeout when you're up enough with 10 seconds left, you just don't do it.
Yeah.
You know, should Howard have controlled his emotions? Yeah, he's a grown adult. You should know better. You know, but at the same token, if you go back and you watch the tape, he is saying, you know, to the Wisconsin coaching staff, you know, after Howard's arm got grabbed, don't put your hands on me. And he said it about 6 or 7 times.
Yeah.
You know, so it should be pretty goddamn crystal clear that unless they're family, you shouldn't be putting your hands on anybody.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, Howard should have controlled his emotions a little bit more. You know, not a good look for either side, but I agree with you. The punishment for me fit the crime. You know, I know some people are throwing out, like you said, suspended the regular season, the conference tournament, and if they're able to make it into the NCAA tournament. Like, no, it's not like this was Malice at the Palace part 2.
No, and that's the one takeaway that everybody needs to remember, too. This is a bad look, and you can't shy away from that. This was a bad look for Howard and Michigan's program.
Yeah.
But this was not a situation where it escalated to that point like you touched upon, Pat.
Yeah.
This is a situation where, an argument got heated, words got exchanged. We don't know what got said in that.
Oh, yeah, there was
mix.
probably more that got said than we saw.
Right. And that's what happened in the response. And you saw the players fighting. And listen, the powers that be came down with swift punishment. They didn't wait about this. And I think that everybody that got suspended for the game, it makes sense. Because right now, this is crunch time for all those teams.
Yeah.
Because when you start going into where you're going to be seeding and you never know what's going to happen in those conference tournaments, this is your season on the line.
Oh, yeah.
And to be suspended, that's a crushing blow for any team. And for these players, they're going to learn a harsh lesson. And what I think they're going to do is, I think Michigan especially is going to come back with a chip on their shoulder.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that you're going to see this bring that team together. And I think that you're going to see them make a run. I'm not saying you call the shot they're winning the chip.
Sure.
But I think in this kind of situation where Howard was defending his team, in my opinion, and like, granted, I'm not condoning what he did. I want to stress that much. But to address that situation, he did. And whatever happened in that conversation, I don't know. Should he have hit him? No.
No.
We've said that numerous times here, so I want to just make sure I'm drilling that point home. But if he wanted to address it to defend his team and say, like, hey, that's not the right way you do things, and whatever got said back to him, that's what caused that escalation, then they're going to say, hey, my coach was standing up for me. Mm-hmm. And they're going to respond and play very hard for him. Not that they weren't already, but they're going to come back. They're going to definitely do what they're going to try getting a chip, and they're going to just have that motivation. Like I say, it's one of those situations where I feel this is going to be an isolated incident. This is
I would hope
this
so.
is not going to be.
Yeah.
And I think for any other coach that's watching right now, because let's face it, this is the big story going around college basketball.
Yeah.
As sad as it is, it's the truth.
Yeah.
I think that everybody is going to be sitting with their teams, and they're going to be saying, hey, listen, I don't care what gets said or what happens. You don't do this.
Well, we all know you got to watch out for that Coach Krzyzewski.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. The final tour, he's going to be pulling out all the stops.
I know. But can I just, one thing?
Sure.
Why the fuck are we still doing handshake lines in college sports at this point? Like, and I'm not even talking COVID. I get it if you're Little League and you're teaching kids the fundamentals and sportsmanship and this and that. Why the fuck are we still doing this? Like, if I say get rid of the damn thing, now, I will say, if you want to keep it so that the coaches do it and the coaches exchange pleasantries, sure, I'm all right with that. But I've seen multiple instances at multiple levels of the collegiate level and even high school level where high emotions after the game. Oh, Christ, I saw one in high school like a week ago where basketball game, both teams lined up, a handshake, oh, good game, good game, good game. Dude pulled back and cold cocked the guy straight in the face and started a brawl. Like, emotions for these players are as high as they can be for the entire week. You know, their mood and their week is made or broken on how this game happens. So why are we risking this type of shit?
It's a great question. And I do see your argument. And
you don't see this in the NBA. Like the NBA, they'll dribble it out. They'll high five. They'll dap each other up. The coaches will still shake hands if they feel the need to, but you don't see, the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks lining up going, oh, good game, guys.
Well, I think the argument is these are not quote unquote paid athletes.
Sure.
That, this is supposed to be sport teaching sportsmanship. That this is not at that kind of professional level. That you want to instill the values of sportsmanship. I understand your point, but I think it's kind of that fine line, like, if we go away from it. Like, do I think we should in this COVID-19 era? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I think that it's foolish that they're doing this under the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those situations that I think for being the tradition of sportsmanship, they wanted to try keeping that up. But the problem that you have is, like you touched upon, when you're that emotionally invested in games, and there's incidents like that timeout, that's going to change the mood, and that might not be the best time to do that. Like, it almost should be a situation of, like, when you think in UFC.
Sure.
When fighters want to touch gloves or not.
Oh, yeah.
And you kind of get that inclination, like, when they go back from the corners and the referee goes, okay, let's get it on. And then you come back in and, like, somebody will throw up a dap and they say no. That should be the coach's call to do.
Sure.
And then maybe that's a way to regulate that.
Sure.
But I agree with you. I think at this stage, you have to find a better way to just keep that core value of sportsmanship instilled.
Sure.
I just don't know how you do that at this level. Like, I mean, I can understand when your kids, playing peewee football and,
I get
such.
that.
Like, I get that. But like I say, the more that you get older, like, if it's done at the high school level, I could understand that.
Yeah, I think college, though, there's no need for it. Just do the NBA method.
Yeah.
Have the coaches do it and go shake hands, whatever. And then just have the players, on the court go up and high five each other, handshake, whatever they want to do, and then just go your separate ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way they want to do it. But I think just for a lot of people, they just want to keep that value still involved, that the sportsmanship outweighs everything. And I get that, and I think that's very noble. I just don't know how you do that in this day and age. I mean, you just see more instances where just people are so wound up for what has happened on the court.
Yeah.
To dial it back, it's very tough. And especially in this situation where this happened right at the end of the game.
Uh-huh.
This isn't something like there was a flagrant foul in the second quarter or anything like that. This is a situation where, okay, this is right after this happened.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's go. Hey, great. I appreciate what you did. No, it's not going to fly. I think that's something that the NCAA needs to really reevaluate. And I would agree with you. I think but I think it should be the coach's call. Like, if they want to go say cool, they can.
Yeah.
And just get your players off the court. And if they don't want to shake, like, I don't think they need to do that per se.
Yeah.
I don't think it takes anything away from the game. But the fact that this is now making headlines, I mean, this is bringing up the conversation about that. That should they get rid of the handshake line? I mean, I've said yes, but my reason is like, okay, listen, if COVID is still a thing, no matter what you want to feel about it, and like I'm not going to get any debates about it. In my opinion, like, I don't think they should be doing it.
Sure,
but it's like if they want to go do that, they can go do that.
No, I'm of the opinion to get rid of it just because this was a relatively isolated incident. With this, but God forbid you have another situation where two players heated go to handshake, they start cold cocking, and it's looking like a friggin' hockey brawl, and it spills into the audience.
Yeah,
and then you get the fan, and Christ, if it spills into the student section.
Well, that's the whole problem, that you are still,
and then we're looking at Malice at the Palace Part 2,
and you're dealing with young adults too. Like that's the one thing. The maturity level of college players varies.
Yeah.
Like, listen, this is being honest. Not everybody is that cool, calm, and collected. So if you're going to be playing a game with such high intensity, this is where your coaching needs to come into place. And I could understand Howard's frustration with what happened.
Yeah, I could too.
I get that, but it's like one of the situations you just got to be a cooler head prevails. It did in this situation, and I feel it's an isolated incident. But you're right. If this happens again, trust me, I think the NCAA will absolutely get rid of it. But I think this is something they should look at now and just really say for those playoffs or the tourney coming up, like, this might be a situation you want to look at things.
Yeah.
Because obviously when everybody is coming back and when Howard comes back to Michigan, I think this team is going to be just rallying around this.
Absolutely.
And I think they're going to absolutely leave it all on the court. Not that they, like, I can't stress enough, not that they weren't already, but I think that they now know that they had a very bad light shined on them.
Uh-huh.
And they're going to want to get people to forget about that as quickly as possible. Yeah. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
And to go back into the tournament where everything really is all about the game and not about an ugly incident.
Yeah.
But that's why I say, like, going into the tournament, this is a bad headline to have, and just hopefully cooler heads prevail as we start getting into these tourneys, because you know the pressure that's on these kids when they're playing.
Oh, yeah.
So let us know what you think about this incident, ODPH Society. What is your takes about what has happened with the University of Michigan here? Do you agree with the punishment fit the crime? Do you not? We can have a civil conversation about it. And obviously, who do you like going into the Final Four tournament? I know it's still a little early, but you know those games to play-ins are going to be happening sooner than later for the tourneys. And obviously, we'll be talking about that when it's tourney time here on the ODPH.
Oh, yeah.
But let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Ooh, I've been dying to try this place.
Oh my god, me too. I've heard such good things about it.
Welcome to the Crime Diner. I'm Cindy. I'll be cooking for you this evening. Here are your menus.
Ooh, what are you thinking about getting?
I don't know, murder with a side of cannibalism? What about you?
Ooh, that sounds good. I'm torn between historical mayhem and the social injustice, maybe?
Oh.
I just want to let you know that each episode comes with dinner, dessert, and a specialty drink chosen by yours truly.
Wine Dine and Storytime has had a makeover, and we invite you to slide into the booth with us at the Crime Diner, where each week we will discuss a crime over dinner, drinks, and dessert. See you there!
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we are now at the second half of the NBA season. And obviously, the All-Star game happened.
Yeah.
And so did the Slam Dunk competition.
Hey, shout out to everyone listening to the show right now. You can do dunks better than anyone at that dunk contest.
Yes. But the Knicks won something, so that's why we're talking about it. Shout out to Obi Toppin.
It's a participation trophy.
I don't give a shit. We won something. That is what matters to me.
All I know is Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon have ruined that dunk contest for a few years.
Oh, I think so, too. I mean, I think this is a situation where...
Go back and watch their 2016 championship round. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The dunk competition and three-point competition is really kind of fallen into a forgettable moment now at this stage.
Yeah.
I mean, because at this day and age with the internet, stars are not being made from this.
Right.
So, like in years past, you saw somebody really elevate their stock because they got showcased. Here, it was not the case, and the slam dunk competition was atrocious, in my opinion. There isn't a lot to talk about that, but that is why we are going to focus on our predictions for the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Some surprises in the rankings, but this is why we're going to break it down and give our picks about who's walking away with this chip here.
Yeah, so looking at the standings for the Eastern Conference, as we record, you currently have the Miami Heat in first place with a record of 38-21. You have the Chicago Bulls right there, tied, exact same record, in second place, or 1A if you want to call it. Next up in third place with a record of 35-23, you have the Philadelphia 76ers. Fourth place with a record of 35-23, you have the Cleveland Cavaliers. Fifth place, you have the Milwaukee Bucks with the record of 36-24. Sixth place with a record of 34-26, you have the Boston Celtics. Seventh place belongs to the Toronto Raptors with a record of 32-25. The Brooklyn Nets are in eighth place with a record of 31-28. Charlotte Hornets are in ninth place with a record of 29-31. And then you've got the Atlanta Hawks in the 10th position with a record of 28-30. And then the Knicks are playing.
Yeah, the Knicks have really fallen on very bad times.
Hey, they're not the Detroit Pistons or Orlando Magic.
No, but they're going to have to do some retooling this offseason. I'm glad they didn't make any moves at the trade deadline. I think right now let's see what we got and see what we can change for next year.
Yeah.
That's going to be the big takeaway. Honestly, I'm not too surprised at 1 and 2. Miami, we thought, has just been solid overall. Like they have been one of those teams that they're young, they're playing very good. Jimmy Butler's down there, so you know they're going to be hustling. They do a lot of the good things, and obviously the record stands to show it.
Chicago surprises me a little bit at number 2, just because I figured they would be good and I figured they would contend, just not as high as number 2.
Yeah. But you know what? They did enough retooling in the offseason that you'd figure maybe they would rise. But 2, I'm actually kind of surprised they're that high.
Yeah.
I would have had them at the spot Cleveland's at.
I can see that.
Cleveland is throwing me for a loop.
Yeah.
I did not think they would be doing as well as they are. But I tell you what, they're fun to watch, and they're definitely making some moves. I know they kind of get a little overshadowed, so to speak, from the headlines that is Brooklyn and Milwaukee.
Well, they don't really. Let's face it, the biggest star on their team, I think, is maybe Rajon Rondo.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like they play very quietly, but they're making some noise. They're doing what they need to. And that's the one takeaway that you got to have here is they are playing so solid.
Yeah.
And especially, like I said, you would think that they're just absolutely forgettable. You would think you would think they are, but they have just been playing just steady basketball.
It's very solid.
Yeah. And for what they're doing, it's like they're flying so much under the radar that nobody's really paying attention to them.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak for their first half of the season just because it doesn't, once the game's over, it doesn't list what channel it was on without me digging into every single box score, and I'm not going to do that. But for the remainder of the regular season, which is however many games, as of this recording and as of right now, and if you're listening to this in the future, it might have changed. Something might have gotten flexed and they might have gotten put into a national game. But as of this recording, they've got one game on their remainder of their schedule on national television. And when I say national television, I'm talking ESPN/ABC, TNT, and hell, I'll even throw NBA TV in there. And that is their Sunday, March 6th game against the Toronto Raptors, which is at 7:30 on ESPN. The rest of them are on local TV.
Yeah, and the craziest stat I'm checking from NBA.com, to quote, the Cavs are the only team that hasn't lost a game by 20 points or more.
Wow.
Like, who are these guys?
Yeah, no kidding.
But they have a tough competition ahead of them. Like, I think that they flew under the radar for the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
But obviously, everybody is going to have their eyes on Philadelphia. And this is where the James Harden 2.0 emerges. Can he play with Joel Embiid? Can they really make a serious run? I'm going to say this. I think they do. I think they take the East.
I could say it.
I think that this is going to be a combination, as long as Embiid stays healthy. We know that sometimes he kind of struggles to do it.
Sure.
But they could definitely really make some noise and really go deep, because now Embiid has somebody that is motivated in James Harden. Which, if you get a motivated Harden, that's huge. That's as big as you can get.
Oh, yeah.
But to pair him with somebody that's already having an MVP season, like, this is what he tried doing in Brooklyn. And this didn't work for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But there's so much drama with Brooklyn that I just think they're going to fall apart.
Could be.
And I think that you kind of have to look at what this team is doing in Philly. And they are going to have a big addition. Like, sure, like when they come back this week, it's going to be some growing pains.
Oh, yeah.
As it is with any new player. You don't just kind of usually gel the first week and then go. But I think once Harden gets used to the system down there and him and Embiid get rolling, this team is going to be lights out. And
they've got an interesting schedule, too. I'm looking at the schedule. They open up this coming Friday in Minnesota against the Timberwolves. Then they got a away game and a home game against the New York Knicks. But the interesting test is going to come Saturday, March 5th, Monday, March 7th, and Thursday, March 10th, where the 5th, they're in Miami playing the Heat. The 7th, they're at home playing the Bulls. And then the 10th, they're at home playing the Nets. So that's going to be an interesting stretch. And then you'll listen to this stretch in the middle to the end of March. So March 18th, they play the Dallas Mavericks. March 20th, they play the Toronto Raptors. 21st, they play the Miami Heat. 23rd, they play the Lakers. 25th, they play the Clippers. 27th, they play the Suns. 29th, they play the Bucks. Ow.
yeah,
God damn.
it's a rough stretch, but this is going to really show if they're playoff ready. I mean, that's the wild scenario about this. I mean, the Bucks are there, but still, they're not the Bucks of old.
No.
And I think that they got their chip. They're happy.
Yeah.
And the real question mark is going to be, can Brooklyn pull it off now with Ben Simmons? And what are we going to get out of Kyrie Irving at this stage? I don't know.
No.
It's not going to happen. I'm not saying this as a Brooklyn hater, because obviously if you listen to the show long enough, you know I don't like Brooklyn.
Nah, you love them. I see you wearing the shirt.
Oh, yeah, you know I got it every day. That's like my whole entire outfit. Brooklyn is just a mess.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when you try building a super team out of nothing. You win all in.
Well, this is what happens when you try and build a super team out of nothing and it goes poorly.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like
sometimes it goes good, sometimes it goes bad. Well, this is the latter.
Yeah, because now you basically had your team tell you who they wanted to play with.
Yep.
Everybody wanted to get together. Oh, we had to get James Harden out of Houston. We had to do it. And then you get him there, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then you have the issues with Kyrie, which, like, listen, that is what it is.
That's a whole other ball of wax we ain't got time for.
Exactly. So if I'm Kevin Durant, I'm kind of looking around like, well, I created this monster. I got to deal with this. Is it now, am I really feeling I'm going to make a deep run?
No, because especially you're still, as of this recording, not going to have all three of them on a court for a home game because New York still has the vaccine mandate and Kyrie Irving is still unvaccinated as of this recording.
Mm-hmm.
So he still cannot play home games in Brooklyn. So if things fall the way they fall and Brooklyn happens to make it to a playoff and just the way the scheduling works out and they end up having fewer home games than away games, or no, excuse me, they end up having more if they have like an even split. You're only counting on Kyrie for half of those fucking games?
Yeah.
Really? Like, I want my guy here for the entire time, which is what it is, but still, I think it's still going to blow up in their face.
I think so, too. I think the whole experiment with him, if I'm Brooklyn, I would have moved him. I would have tried moving him however I could.
I think that would have been a lot easier under any other circumstance.
Yeah, but I think that's the problem that you got right now, that you're stuck with him.
That's a monster. You cannot do anything. That is a literal Hydra from like the Hercules mythology. Like you cut off one head, there's about 2-3 more.
Yeah, so I am just saying I don't know exactly how this is all going to play out with Brooklyn. I don't think they're going to do it because I just think, one, you went on that bad losing streak, 11 games, I believe.
Something like that, yeah.
And to come back from that, you move Harden. It's a messy breakup. We all know about this. It's very well documented. Now you have a lot of pressure on you, and now if it doesn't pan out, what do you do now? Like, you blew up your super team. There is no excuse now. This is all on Kevin Durant to pull off something. And if he's the true superstar, the greatest in the league right now, he's got to come through. And it's unfortunate that that's the narrative it is. But listen, you made this monster. You're the one that wanted to get Kyrie to Brooklyn with you. You wanted James Harden to play with. Oh, yeah, we're going to make it happen, blah, blah, blah. You know, the secret games they were doing out in California, whatever the nonsense was there.
Right.
Like, listen, reap what you sow. You wanted this team, and now you had to implode it.
And there's no shortage of the spotlight being any less bright on them because all Nets games are broadcasted on the Yes Network, which is in the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut area, and is like one of the largest, if not the largest, regional sports network in the country.
Yeah,
they get a lot of viewers. There's a lot of people watching them that can watch those games. And then there also no shortage of them being on national television because I looked at their schedule. Out of the remaining however many games they got, 13 of them are on national television split between ESPN/ABC, TNT, and NBA TV.
Oh, yeah, because everybody thought they were going to be the team to beat, and now they're not.
Yeah.
So I think in closing for the East, listen, this is Philly's game to lose, in my opinion.
I can see that.
I think Miami's going to hang with them. I think that'll be your conference final.
That'd be a good one.
Depending on how it all shapes up in bracketing. But I'm telling you this, I like Philly to go to the conference finals.
If I had to pick somebody to pick to go to the conference finals, I'm going to say Chicago just because it's been a while.
Well, you know what? Like I said, they got such a nice young nucleus there that they could definitely pull it off. It's not out of the realm of thought with who they got on that team.
Yeah.
Because obviously Ball is playing very hard, and you got DeMar DeRozan too.
Yeah.
Like, you have some very talented pieces there that are, they're gelling very nicely. So that's why the Bulls are doing as well as they are. So they could definitely sneak in there and make some noise, but I still think this is Philly's to lose.
Could be.
And then taking a look at the West.
Boy, oh boy, this is something interesting because looking at the Western Conference, as we currently record, first place is held down by the Phoenix Suns, who have a record of 48-10. Second place is the Golden State Warriors with a record of 42-17. Third place belongs to the Memphis Grizzlies, who have a record of 41-19. Utah is in fourth place with a record of 36-22. The Dallas Mavericks are in the fifth position with a record of 35-24. Denver Nuggets are right behind him in sixth place with a record of 33-25. Then you've got the Minnesota Timberwolves in the seventh position with a record of 31-28. LA Clippers are in the eighth seed with a record of 30-31. LA Lakers are in the ninth seed with a record of 27-31. And then you've got the Portland Trailblazers in the 10th spot with a record of 25-34.
Wow, we were wrong about the Lakers.
Yeah, just a bit.
Just a bit. The Russell Westbrook situation is just getting worse by the day.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be their year. I know everybody's talking about LeBron's, itching about leaving. Listen, I think at this stage, it might not be a bad idea per se.
Yeah.
It depends on what you want to do. Like, he's still in arguably the top percentage of the league to have on your team.
Oh, absolutely.
But if you're thinking that it's not going to work out there, you got to chip out of them. What else could you really say? I mean, the experiment worked.
Yeah, LeBron currently averaging 29.1 points per game, which is good for third in the league, 7.9 rebounds per game, which is good for 33rd in the league, 6.5 assists, which is good for 16th in the league.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, he's still in the top echelon of the players in the league, even though, I mean, obviously, Father Time is catching up on him at this stage.
Right.
But this is something that we need to realize with him. And obviously, he said he wants to play with his son when he comes to the league, and he would be definitely open to going to a different team and doing something there.
Boy, you thought the decision was going to be wild. That whole thing is going to be fucking wilder.
Well, JT from the East Coast Avengers had a good question, that if you had the number 1 pick in the draft, would you take LeBron's son to get LeBron?
Oh, you absolutely, you fucking have to.
I'd say if you're on the cusp of winning, like if you were in the situation that Cleveland was in when he came back,
sure,
and you had all those number 1 picks in a row,
yeah,
and you just needed a veteran to come back and lead that team, yeah, I do.
In a fucking heartbeat.
I do that pick in the heartbeat. This is a foolish question otherwise. But if you're somebody that's like, Sacramento,
James Dolan, start listening.
Yeah. Oh, I'd say Dolan would be smart to do that, but I don't think they're going to do that with the Knicks. I mean, I think we got to do some retooling and then some, but that's a whole other side story.
Well, first you got to find Leon Rose.
Well, yeah, we're going to save that conversation for another time, because trust me, I can go on a very long-winded rant. But in concern with the Lakers, that's the situation, especially with who you got to compete with now. Phoenix has picked up where they left off.
Oh, absolutely.
They're playing lights out. Devin Booker is doing his thing out there. Chris Paul, what can you say?
Hey, the ageless wonder.
Yeah. And to see what they're doing out there, obviously they are playing at such an elite level that Golden State, as much as they're back, and everybody's very, very fearful of that, is not competing with Phoenix right now. Like, that's how crazy this is out in the West. Like, you have to think about that. So it's going to be a situation, especially with Phoenix, though, because with Chris Paul breaking his thumb.
Yeah,
You got to remember about that, too. I don't know. I think Phoenix will still be in there. But I tell you what, the team that could sneak up on everybody is the Grizzlies.
Yeah, well, I think we got to remember the thing that helped the Phoenix Suns was they went like a calendar month with like 1 loss.
Yeah.
They won their first game of the year on January 2nd, which was an away game at Charlotte. They won against New Orleans. They beat the Clippers. They lost against Miami on January 8th. They did not lose another game until February 3rd against the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They went like a calendar month with like 1 loss.
Yeah. But
by the way, they haven't lost a game since. Now, granted, I realize they're on the All-Star break, but still, since that Atlanta Hawks loss, they've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row.
Yeah, they're on point right now, and that's what I said. That's what makes them scary in the West.
And by the way, that's with them playing the Bulls, the 76ers, and the Milwaukee Bucks.
Mm-hmm. No, that's how tough the West is right now. That obviously, I think whoever's getting the chip this year is coming out of there.
I would imagine so, although I wouldn't necessarily look past the East just because, to me, the conferences seem pretty evenly split, in terms of like who's better teams and all that. It's not like years past where one side was it's not like years past where the West was so obviously more stacked than the East. It's like, yeah, of course the fucking champion's going to come out of the West. Mm-hmm. I think I wouldn't sleep on the Eastern conferences here.
Well, I don't think you can. Like, I don't think it's going to be a runaway, but if you look at how the top 3 teams are doing there in the West.
Yeah.
And like I said, Memphis is nothing to sneeze about. Ja Morant is just on a whole different level right now.
Yeah.
And the rest of the team is finally catching up to him. This is a situation where anyone in those top 3 could sneak in there. I do like Golden State, though.
Oh, I do, too.
I think that they know that the window is slowly closing on them. They finally have everybody back healthy. And they're poised to make a run now. That's the one thing that this team knows how to do, and that's win, and especially if you get in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Love them or hate them, they know how to do this. But with Clay back, that's a huge, huge win in their favor.
Yeah.
And this is going to definitely help them carry some weight into the playoffs there. Because, if you take a look at the latter half of that conference right now, is anybody really jumping on at you in the West?
No. Honestly, past the 6... And even the Nuggets are kind of like, I don't know if I really feel. Even the 5 with Dallas. Once you get past the 4 with Utah, I'm not really all that scared by any of the teams out west. Sure, they can make some noise and they can probably cause some havoc and upset a few people's postseason plans. But realistically, do I see the Mavericks, the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Clippers, Lakers, or Trailblazers making it to the finals? No.
No, I mean,
No.
I think Dallas might be the closest one, but they're still a ways away.
Yeah.
But that's what I say. When you got Luka on your team, you can make a lot of happen.
Listen, there's a reason Jordan paid him some respect over the weekend.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes up. So that being said, Pat, who you got coming out of the West?
I'm going to say Golden State Warriors. They got everybody back healthy. They're playing real well. I do know they have a little bit of a rough schedule. Coming out of the gate, they play Portland, Dallas, Minnesota, Dallas, and the Lakers. So they do have a bit of a rough schedule, but hey, everyone's back playing healthy. They're playing good. I think it's going to be Golden State's time to shine.
Yeah, I agree with you, too. I think there's Golden State's to lose. I think Phoenix is going to hang in there, but if Chris Paul is out for as long as they're kind of guessing he is, yeah, that's not going to be a good look for anybody. And I think that they're going to really kind of struggle against it. So we'll have to wait and see about how it all plays out, though. But I tell you what, I like Philly and I like Golden State. You like?
Yeah, I like Chicago and Golden State.
So ODPH Society, who's your picks for the second half of the NBA season? Who do you like? Who do you not? Let's talk about it, shall we? Who is going to the NBA Finals out of both conferences? I know it's the early predictions, but hey, that's what we like to do here on the show. So let us know what you got. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna...
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got to talk a little Binghamton Black Bears hockey.
Okay.
Because looking at the schedule, or not the schedule, the standings, they're currently in fourth place with a record of 20-17. They've got Columbus ahead of them with a record of 20-11. Danbury with a record of 26-12. And fucking hell, Watertown in first place still with a record of 28-7-1.
Jesus Christ.
Holy shit, Watertown's running away with this.
Yeah.
So switching over to the schedule to see how they did this past week, they had a game on Saturday, February 19th. It was their first game back after the little brief spell from the what's going on with the Olympics. They beat the Delaware Thunder by the final score, small margin of victory, 9-3. They came back the next night on Sunday, February 20th, and they lost to the Watertown Wolves by the final score of 7-3. And then Monday, they took on the Watertown Wolves again, where they won by the final score of 5-3. Switching ahead to looking at their games they have this coming week, they have a home game this Friday against the Delaware Thunder, game time 7 o'clock. And then they have then they're on the road Saturday, February 26th, taking on the Delaware Thunder at 7 o'clock Eastern. And then they are on the road again Sunday, February 27th, 3 o'clock Eastern, taking on the Watertown Wolves. Their next home game after this Friday is not until Saturday, March 5th. That is taking on Watertown. So for more info, tickets, and all that good stuff, BinghamtonBlackBears.com.
Right on. So let's keep it in the last roll. You want to talk some more baseball?
Yeah, I got to talk a little bit. We'll got to talk some baseball because it was announced today by the New York Yankees that I think it was about 8 years or so ago, the Yankees decided to honor Paul O'Neill, the warrior, one of the linchpins of the Yankee dynasty from the 90s and into 2000. Was getting a plaque. He was getting a little plaque in Monument Park just to honor him. Well, it was announced today by the New York Yankees that on Paul O'Neill Day, which is taking place on August 21st, 2022, where the Yankees will be taking on the Toronto Blue Jays that night, Paul O'Neill will become the 23rd player or manager to have his number retired. If you go to the game, you'll have a commemorative game ticket. But yeah, Paul O'Neill's number 21 will finally be officially retired.
About damn time.
I say the exact same goddamn thing. He played his final game in Game 7 of the 2001 World Series. Of course, if you look up the video on YouTube, there's the famous moment from, I think it was Game 5 or 6. I think it was 5 of the 2001 World Series where the fans are chanting his name and for about 5 minutes during the game. It's goosebumps moment for if you're a sports fan. And since that point, only one player has worn the number 21, and that was for all of a week. That was relief pitcher LaTroy Hawkins in 2008, who to that point, so for 7 years, nobody wore the number. And for whatever reason, they never retired it. So LaTroy Hawkins comes out. He's wearing the 21, booed incessantly.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand it. Allegedly, he didn't even know who Paul O'Neill was. He was wearing it in commemoration of Roberto Clemente. But he got booed incessantly, and he finally changed to the number 22. So after about a week in 2008, nobody has worn the number since. So it was de facto retired. So finally, this coming August, assuming they play the season this year.
Yeah, that's a whole other ball of wax.
If not, this will be 2023 we're doing this. But no, Paul O'Neill will be the latest member of the Yankees to have his number retired. And deservedly so, I'd say. He's not one of the core four, but he was a fantastic player for the New York Yankees. I dug up some stats on him. He played 9 seasons with the Yankees from 1993 to 2001. During that time, he had a .303 batting average, 185 home runs, 858 runs batted in, and an .869 on-base percentage. He was a 4-time World Series champion, a 4-time All-Star, and oh, by the way, he was the 1994 AL batting champion. So without him, I would say it'd be a little harder for the Yankees to have won some of those World Series. And without him being in New York, there'd be a lot happier water coolers.
Yeah, this is true. Nobody can match his intensity. He was one of the most feared players in the league because he was just that guy. That, you needed that clutch hit, he would get that clutch hit. He just was such an intense player that him being in the New York media, I'm surprised it went as well as it did. Because I know he didn't speak a lot to the media, but he was just so respected for his play on the field that they kind of gave it to him easy.
Sure.
But I'm not meaning that in a slight by any means.
It was also before the social media age.
Yeah, too, because I think that if we were in that kind of age right now, yikes. That's all I got to say about that.
I mean, I know some people are like, oh, why? Listen, he was the linchpin of those World Series teams. He's become a fan favorite, in his time on the Yes Network. Listen, I almost always watch Yankees games, but my attention is kind of divided up between who's the matchup. I'll have it on maybe as background noise, but I'll watch actively if it's a good team and if Paul O'Neill's calling the game, because Paul O'Neill is absolute money on a broadcast for a Yankees game.
Oh, for sure.
Him and Dan. Listen, we as Yankees fans have been spoiled the last 2 years, with the COVID year and then this year because the Yes Network broadcasting crew has gone down from a lot to just a few. And for the last 2 years, we've had David Cohn and Paul O'Neill on basically every Yankees game, and it's been a fucking joy. National fans will get to experience David Cohn and his wonder and brilliance, but Paul O'Neill is fantastic as a broadcaster, and obviously just increased his aura as one of the fan favorites. And to him, I say very fond congratulations, sir.
Absolutely. So for me, one quick UFC note before we get into some wrestling to bookend the show. This past week was UFC Fight Night, and Jamal Hill knocked out 607 podcast favorite Johnny Walker.
You got knocked the fuck out!
Oh, yeah, it was a brutal knockout. I'm not saying Johnny's done, but, man, that was not a good knockout to take. Yeah, that was just brutal. You can find the post shots after on social media. Maybe we'll share some on Instagram this week. I don't know. It's that brutal. It's going around. But what I really want to dive into is this week, there was supposed to be a fight going on between Islam Makhachev and Beneil Dariush, and Dariush has been forced out because he has an injury.
Oh.
Stepping in on, I want to say 10 days notice, is Bobby Green.
Oh, okay.
Which is awesome to see. It's a crazy weight cut. They're going to be fighting, I believe, at a catch weight instead of 155.
Yeah, that's short a time span, yeah.
Yeah, but this is going to be absolutely wild to see. I know Common Man Vince Iatoli was screaming about Bobby Green. He's going to pull the upset. I don't know. It's going to be a fun fight this weekend on the 26th. So definitely keep your eyes out for that. I do think Islam is going to take him down, though. But hey, listen, to step in on that short notice, and like I said, it's some crazy weight cut to get down to right around 155. I want to say, yeah, if it's going to be a catch weight, it'll probably be like 165, 160. I'm not sure about the number.
Yeah.
But either way, kudos to you for stepping up and doing that on short notice, because at least, hey, a fight isn't canceled. So we'll kind of have to wait to see about if Dariush is going to get a rematch with Makhachev down the road, but who knows, man. It's still going to be some good fights going on this weekend as well. And to bookend about some pro wrestling news, I forgot, Pat, there's something going on locally.
Yeah, so it was announced that on Sunday, April 24th at 7 o'clock Eastern, at the Visions Veterans Memorial Arena that WWE will be returning to Binghamton for the first time in a couple of years now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been at least 2019 since they've been here. Obviously, the pandemic, ain't nothing happened, and then they weren't here all of 2021, so they're finally making their return. Tickets will go for the event to start at $15. They go on sale to the general public Friday, February 25th at 10 a.m. through Ticketmaster. Looks like we're going to be getting the SmackDown, folks. As scheduled to appear will be WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, the Usos, The New Day, Sheamus, Ridge Holland, Charlotte Flair, and more.
Exciting to see WWE action back in town.
Yeah.
So you definitely have to try making plans to go down to the show. It's going to be a while. Like it said, it's been such a long time going. It'll kind of feel a little surreal going in there, but it's always going to be a good time down to see some live WWE action locally. If you get the chance to go see it, go support any pro wrestling you can.
Plus, you never know who's going to show up unannounced.
This is true. This is very true. But to close out, we also have to give a shout out to Ring of Honor, and they have announced their latest inductee into their Hall of Fame class this year. The one and only CM Punk.
Does ROH realize that every other Hall of Fame class they do after this year is going to fucking suck?
It's going to be a challenge for him. I'm going to say this, but they have got such a wealth of talent that they could pull from.
Oh, I agree.
They went heavy for this class.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I know, but I'm with you. Like,
I'm just saying, like, save some for future years.
Well, as I said, I think they're only doing 4 this go around. So obviously, Punk joins Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, and the Briscoes in. So it'll be interesting to see when this all goes out. So obviously, keep your eyes on Ring of Honor social media. I know they're going to be doing like a quick special catching up about the history of them in Ring of Honor. And obviously, if you know anything about CM Punk's lineage, him in ROH has been some of the most fantastic stuff you'll ever see in pro wrestling, bar none. A lot better, in my opinion, than what you see on AEW. Just saying. So that all said, Pad, the music you heard on this edition of the ODPH is that of Brian Wolf. Now, Brian Wolf I don't think is in pro wrestling. He probably should get into it. But if I want to find out about him and his music, where do I go?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Swing it over your music section. You check out everything going on with him. Everything going on with Floodlands. Second Suitor. Tom Jolo. Yard Party. Shout out the Robots. The list goes on and on. All fantastic people. And that's why we put them on the page, because we endorse them. Also, while you're at the website, check out Parlay Points. New blogs dropping this week. And thank you to everybody who's been subscribing to them. Jeez, I saw the numbers. I don't like to brag about numbers, but thank you. Holy smokes. But while you're at the website as well, too, make sure you swing on over to the Classifieds, where you check out organizational links supporting Black Lives Matter. All the pod groups we are in via their Podchaser pages. Friends of the show, such as 8122 Productions, doing a lot of big things, coming up on the 4-year anniversary next month.
Or
2 months, actually. It's in April. It's like February is just blending into March for me. So
it's a lot going on.
A lot going on. They got a lot of stuff going on their Patreon, too, so you definitely want to go check that out. Also, check out the TeePublic store. A lot of stuff you definitely want to go pick up on. The directory, which, Pat, how many providers are we on now?
18,209.
Yeah, he's got the number down, folks. No joke. If we're not on your favorite podcast provider, let us know, and we'll try getting on there for you. That's what we tried doing here at the ODPH. All of that and so much more. ODPHpodcast.com. That's all we got for this week. So for the one and only Padawan
Fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We'll see you next time.
Gonna be down to the punch. Gonna be down to the punch. 'Cause they can't bring me down if I'm already under the ground. I'm gonna try to make them laugh. I'm gonna try to make them laugh. 'Cause the laughing man's got nothing to say about me. They're judging only by what they can see. This behavior goes way back to ancient history. I hope one day I'll find a way to be free. I know I can't change them. All I can change is me. I'm gonna stick to the master plan. Once I come up with a master plan, it's hard to